I'll call to order the February 13th, 2018 Lake Mills Public Works Board. Could you take the roll call, please?
Ms. Schmidt? Aye. Mr. Temperley?
Aye.
Mr. Pickard?
Here.
Mr. Lair?
Here.
And Mr. Reich and Ms. Wolf previously informed staff that they'd be unavailable for this evening's meeting.
Okay. Item 3, correction and/or approval of the minutes of November 14th, 2017. I entertain a motion to correct or to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We'll take a roll call vote because Ian was gone at that meeting.
Mr. Temperley?
Aye.
Mr. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Lair?
Abstain?
Ms. Schmidt?
Aye.
Motion passed 3-0.
4, questions and public comment. There's nobody here. Item 5, discussion, recommendation, and parking restrictions, Fremont Street. This is me. This is my street.
Well, tell us about it.
If you can bring up the map. Whenever there's a special event, birthday parties or anything, guests tend to park on both sides of the streets as close to the house as possible. And there's only allows for one lane of traffic to go through, a very small lane. Most of the time people are courteous and someone takes their turn and stops to let the other one come through, then go. But I have serious concerns about fire trucks trying to get through, especially now that it's the snow, it's even more narrow. So what I liked is to have one sided parking restrictions between Ferry and West Madison. Any questions or concerns?
Do you have a preference on which side?
I don't have a preference. It'd be my side since I'm doing it, but do we typically need an ordinance? I mean, tonight's recommendation was to direct the city attorney to draft an ordinance.
Actually, a council member has to do that.
All right, yeah, that's what I
Oh,
thought.
I guess I'm a council member.
Lucky for us.
Yeah, so it'll be a recommendation to the council to draft.
Things you find out at meetings, right? So for other parking changes in the city, they've never gone through the Public Works Board before. Why this one?
Because I'm on it, and
Okay.
any member of the public works can bring up anything related to streets if they wish.
Parking.
Maybe the recommendation, instead of being to go ahead and draft an ordinance, would be to ask Public Works to take a look at it to see if they can recommend, because I know from past times when I would draft the ordinances, I would always have to work with Public Works to determine which side and the exact parameters of where we start and where we stop, and would there be certain hours that you'd be looking at, or 24/7?
It'd be 24/7. Like I said, my concern is fire trucks. If something were to happen, they would be taking off some side mirrors if there's cars parked on both sides of the street.
So what's different about this street compared to, say, College Street?
I think College is a little more wider.
Well, some parts are wider and some
Yeah.
parts I'm not so sure.
Right. Well, if people on College Street think that parking on both sides is an issue, they're welcome.
I think what you're suggesting, though, is more broader than just the one street, though, right?
I'm sure that there's lots of streets in the city that
Yeah.
are as narrow as Fremont Street,
Yep.
that are residential streets where
Mhm.
both people park on both sides. It's tight. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Water. Yeah, it's both sides still? Yeah, that's,
Some parts are restricted on water.
Well, there's
that
part that's
probably-
restricted on Fremont.
What's that?
There's part that's restricted on Fremont,
What part is that?
from what down to Lake Shore, the nearest road, and then down to
Oh.
the lake. There's no parking at all there, and that's posted
That's true, yeah.
on either side.
Mhm.
That was to prevent people from using the pure end.
Yeah.
What road is that? Is it a lease or, I can't, we looked it up today. I can't-
Lakeview?
Lakeview is farther towards town.
Oh, that little narrow alley?
Yeah.
You're inside? Yes.
Yeah.
You're inside.
Yeah.
Used to be Leesman and part up the hill, but it's all there inside now.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No. It's good
I
information.
interrupted Vicky.
Yeah.
She was about to say
All right.
regarding Water Street, whether or not there was still parking on both sides.
Yeah, I think most of that grew out of Hamlin.
Hmm. Yeah,
It's
that down
probably
on-
not needed anymore.
Down on that far end when they were parking around the corners there and on Grove, we got a lot of parking there, but that, when you consider from Madison Street all the way down to your street, that's one of the narrowest streets in the city, and Burnside's the narrowest, but
But that's pretty much it. If there's cars parked on both sides, and it's usually 3 on each side, it's very narrow fit. And I don't see how a big fire truck could get through that.
Is there another area of town that we have done something similar?
There was always talk on Ferry Drive of no parking, but a couple people objected to that.
yeah,
And that,
on the really narrow part north of.
yeah, it's one side, and even if one car parked, it's still a one-lane street.
How is it, the only other place that I can think of that's relatively that wide that they've done something similar is in Johnson Creek on Watertown Street. But I don't remember if that was parking on just one side and they got rid of it altogether.
Oh, yeah. Well,
That street's like Water Street. It's really narrow.
yeah.
The street is wider than that.
Okay.
Yeah, and they had parking on one side, but they eliminated that now.
They just.
Did they do it for a similar reason, do you think?
I think traffic was picking up on that street and they started to have accidents.
Because it wasn't wide enough anyway for 2 lanes, even with the one-side
It was
parking.
basically 2 lanes and then they had parking in the one lane. And so
Yeah,
it
but that was very narrow. I go that way to go to the movies, and
Yeah, well, that's what was happening. Everybody
Yeah.
was heading up that street to go up to the theater and Culver's and over to the mall, and the traffic became much heavier, and I think a lot of cars are getting skinned.
right.
But the fire department hasn't ever complained about this. We don't get any, there hasn't been any any accident.
Right, but it only happens on special event. Normally, there's a smattering of only 1 or 2 cars on Fremont, but whenever there's a party, even events at my house, people like to park as close to the house as possible, so you get 6 cars, you get 3 on each side, all lumped together.
Yeah, that's normally considered a unusual event, and we don't usually regulate around those.
Yeah. And I don't see any hardship if we do have one side of the street. Everyone has at least 4 off-street parking spots. And if they do have an event, it's not that far to walk. What you thinking, Vicky, since I'm hoping you'll be the sponsor of the ordinance?
I don't know, I would want to hear from Public Works before I decided to sponsor anything.
Oh, you mean the department?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Mostly Dwayne,
that's fine.
maybe Paul. So whoever it is that goes out there and makes those determinations, but I was looking at the map and it kind of looks like the south side might have fewer driveways than the north. And if that's the case, if we have to make a choice, I would think that the north side should be the one with the restricted parking, because there's already fewer opportunities for parking anyway.
Yep.
All right, that's fine.
But I would leave that up to Dwayne or Paul to provide input on it.
Well, we'll take a look. Yeah, and we'll come back with a recommendation.
There's not like an old standard out there for like how wide it needs to be per se to have parking on both sides. That doesn't feel like there's a standard for that, right?
Yeah, there is, and this street hits that standard. What we look at is most low-use residential streets, we consider one lane. You only need 10 feet to get a fire truck through. So, like I said, those unusual events when you have parking on both sides because someone's having a party or something like that, that's not a normal situation. So we usually don't regulate to that level. We usually, like Todd said, most people back off and allow the other traffic to go through in those times, and most of the time that's not an issue. So we try not to regulate any more than we have to. But surely Paul and Dwayne can look at it. I know Dwayne's already shouting issues in my ear over here, so.
Okay, that's made my point, so I'll just let it ride from here then.
Okay, would we want to bring a recommendation back here at our next meeting
If so, yeah.
so that
Okay.
we can talk about it further? Okay.
If not a recommendation, then just the background on what happened, if nothing else.
Yeah, it might be prudent to have the fire department weigh in too, because, yeah, that's my recollection too, is they need 10 feet clearance for fire lanes, and if they're weaving through a street that's parked on both sides, does that still give them their 10-foot clearance? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I can't say that I know exactly what the street width is right now, but Dwayne and Dave will look at that and I'll bring that information.
Unless they park like I tend to sometimes.
And with the snow, it's a little narrow
Yeah.
too.
Okay, we can do that.
All right, thanks. Item 6, this is another one of mine. Sorry for bringing everybody out tonight. Discussion and recommendation on turn lanes, Tenderine Park Road and Main Street. What brought this up is my son started working at Jimmy John's, and when it came sub-zero, I started driving him to work, and one day after I dropped him off, I wanted to go to Culver's, and it was in the right lane, and I just noticed that it said right turn only. And a few times after I dropped them off, after my learning experience, there was salt in the road and snow where people couldn't see those turn arrows, and when the light turned green, both lanes went straight, and in front of Quick Trip, there was honking and I'm sure a lot of swearing. There is a sign in front of McDonald's that says right turn only. I see they put orange flags, but I think they need arrows. This is the only direction where there isn't a sign with the arrows saying which lanes are for what. I think that would help a
They do
lot.
have arrows at the driveway of McDonald's, and then they have a sign after that that says right turn only, right
Yeah.
lane, right turn only.
I think it
So
should,
they have two signs there. They also have arrows in the lanes, but to a certain extent, our position was that there's so much activity in that intersection with Walgreens and Ace and McDonald's and Summit that people aren't reading the signage as they come up there. They're concentrating on the traffic pulling in and out of the traffic lanes from the, so
I think if it would be up at the lights though, people are also focused on the lights.
Also, when was it changed the way it is right now? A year ago?
no, it was changed to the current one about a little after Thanksgiving.
Right, so it's been that way 6 months?
Yeah.
No, not even,
Less,
less than
not
6
even.
months, so that people are still getting used to it too.
What we discussed is the signalization change is a significant improvement, especially for the west side, because it clears those semi-trucks out of the left turn lane that are turning up, and it allows the traffic in and out of the driveways at Quick Trip at BP. The problem is with all the traffic movements occurring on the east side, you don't notice the sign on the tree lawn. So if you could get something that was hanging over the road, you would have a better chance of seeing that and have a better idea of which lane to pull into. We did have quite a bit of conversation related to this. Todd provided me with a sample of an arm, and DOT has their regulations on how they'll do it. We just make a recommendation to that effect. I anticipate we talked about, what was it, FDR? Federal Design Requirements. And we anticipate that it was designed to that standard. And because there haven't been there haven't been enough accidents to hit a warrant, that DOT is probably going to say, we're not going to spend an extra $5,000 on an arm over the road unless there's some reason driving it, which would be enough accidents in the intersection. They don't get too excited about people flipping each other off.
That's status quo.
So while I think the recommendation is a good idea, I don't know that it will drive that. I did find it interesting that the first time I found out about it was in Facebook. We called the county, and the first time they found out about it was when the town board chairman asked them to come down and review the changes. And the council president called the sign and signalization director at WISDOT, and he didn't know about it. So I'm trying to figure out who made this decision based on what.
Yeah.
I think it works great. You'd have thought there'd have been a little bit more communication all the way down the channel. It just all of a sudden, bang, it was different. And there are still a few other little bugs that we see in there. Those semi-trucks are really pushing to get through that intersection. Some of them anticipate that the left lane on the east side is going to turn left. And so if they see a car in that left lane and nothing in the right lane, they pull out. So if you're driving, you better be careful. I guess our position is you're supposed to be defensive when you go through an intersection anyways, and both drivers should have taken more caution, but I don't know how to signalize the west side to say that oncoming traffic may go straight. So we may talk to DOT about that too. But those were the two things that we noted. The only thing we could think of was a dashed line from one lane to the other lane is where those kind of crosses over. But like you said, when it's salty and snowy, you don't see those lines.
Yeah, I think if they just post those arrows on the up and down posts on the other side of the intersection, that'd help a lot. 'Cause
Yeah, you don't want to confuse them on what their lanes do.
I mean, what do you mean?
Yeah, I get it. You got this lane turning like this this is McDonald's here. And this is Walgreens.
Okay,
This is BP, and this is Quick Trip.
Get a little off the camera.
Okay. So this lane is turning this way, and this lane can do either, it can go straight or it turns, right?
Right.
This traffic here, these semi-trucks, when they get in this turn lane like that, they're anticipating that this lane is a left turn lane only. So they're more willing, if they see no traffic here and a car coming here, they're willing to jump this intersection early. So if you're planning on coming through, you might have a semi-truck pulling out in front of you. Okay? So how do you signal to this truck here or car that this traffic can come straight through?
Stagger the lights.
Right.
Their goal is to clear, the whole signalization change was to clear this lane as fast as possible because of these driveways. That was the whole goal behind the signalization change, was to clear this area out, and it's working great. It's reduced a lot of the conflicts in this area that we were seeing earlier.
What do you mean signalization? Was it the way, that was always?
Well, what happens
that was
here
always
is-
Left turn arrow.
What happens here is this signal
Yeah,
stays red, and this one gets a green arrow and a green light. So this traffic can go like this or this, and this traffic can go like this. So this traffic is already pretty well cleared before this side gets a green light, and then this traffic can turn and this stuff can go
yeah, I
forward.
noticed that. The side, that side gets a green light first,
Right.
and assuming that's all cleared out, then we get the green light to go straight or
Well,
left. Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily clear all out. There's still traffic. A lot of times you'll still have trucks in the queue right here.
Yeah,
So what happens is that this truck is sitting here and it sees this lane, this right lane clear. It doesn't know that this is a right turn only.
right.
And it doesn't know that this is a through or a left. So he's anticipating that this left lane is the same as this left lane. And so he's willing to pull out in front of a car coming like this.
So when the westbound gets, no, let's see, yeah, when the westbound gets a green, what does the eastbound see for lights?
Green, it stays green the whole time that
Right.
the,
So, but if it changed, they could change to a flashing yellow, which is the new thing for caution when making a left turn, correct?
right.
Which would maybe slow the trucks down.
Yeah,
But that's what we had discussed initially. Well, but my fear is that they're gonna think that this traffic is still left only, and that they're worried about this lane.
Yeah.
So even if they have a flashing arrow, they're not gonna anticipate a straight through in this lane. They're gonna look at this lane, see it clear, and pull out, even with a flashing arrow.
Well, flashing yellow is better than nothing, right?
Yeah. So the debate was, is there something we could do? So we're gonna ask Dot. I'm assuming that they're gonna come up with the same answer we came up with as a flash of yellow. But even under the circumstances of the way the intersection is designed now, that truck is responsible for not pulling out in front of traffic. He's supposed to be defensive and not assume that that car is turning. But you know what it's like. Those guys they're slow getting out of that intersection anyways. They want every advantage they can get to pull out. So that one I'm interested to see what the dot engineers who work with that specifically come up with. The way they've adjusted the signals now has helped a lot, but that's the one big issue I see in that area. Like Mark says, I assume eventually most of the people will catch on to the new lane adjustment, even without a signage. And new people to town, people just coming off the interstate and using Walgreens or McDonald's, they're never gonna know what lanes, but they should be making only right turns then anyways.
Most of the time.
well, and to go to Culver's.
Yes.
Yeah, if they go to
On the
Walgreens and go to
headed
Culver's.
Culver's,
east.
yeah.
I don't think there is one on the westbound traffic. I think the only places that you have an arrow are right here and the one right here.
So you'll see, this will get an arrow,
Yep.
and this will get an arrow, but none of the rest, all the rest of them get green lights. Well, I take that back. There is a green arrow here once in a while. But I don't know what trips them
Yeah, I
off.
don't know,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty rare.
Yeah, it's very rare. But this one over here, I see quite a bit, and this one over here, I see all the time.
Yeah.
So if there was a island-type feature for the right turn lane, that would indicate to the oncoming truck traffic that the, you know, if the right turn lane for McDonald's was more, you know, obvious it was a right turn only lane.
A ham bone in there that forced the traffic to turn? Yeah.
And then the truck traffic sees that and says, oh, that means the other lane could.
There is only one lane, right?
No.
I
No,
know,
what
but
he said-
If you put that in there, then there is only one lane. It's either turn
Yeah,
left or
right,
go
yeah.
Then they know that other lane has to go straight,
Right.
or can
Yeah,
go straight.
if it's curved, yeah.
But the
They
only
don't
way
like
to do
putting in
that-
ham bones, though.
Yeah, I know. We don't like those for plowing, right?
They don't like it because it's hard to plow around, creates maintenance problems, and and it's generally is more of a hazard in the traffic lane than a help.
So at Mulberry and Tyranina, there is that feature, right?
That's a county highway.
Yeah.
And the state controls all this.
State controls this one. We got that loud and clear from the county engineer, didn't we?
Just be nice if they told us some things here and there.
Yeah, well, they didn't even tell the county. They didn't even tell their own department head. But I don't have any problem if the council tells me to send them a letter saying, we'd really like you to consider an arm over the road here that's got, tells what the lane does.
Yeah,
And then ask them to consider, what the issue is here and if they can fix something like a flashing yellow or maybe another sign that says oncoming traffic.
I think it's at least worth that shot.
just by consensus or need an official vote?
Well, for the asking about the signalization, if I just can do it by consensus, the letter on the arm, which is, pretty expensive piece for them, I'll need you to recommend to the council.
Okay,
So you can do it by motion now,
yeah.
or you can wait and I'll provide a written motion at the next meeting, but either way.
Well, I can't make a motion. It's up to you guys. If you want to just make a motion now.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Solves all the problems, right? Solves these problems and then creates some new ones.
This is a statue in the middle of it.
Paul statue?
Steve Wilkie Memorial Statue. This is actually a great intersection for it, other than the fact that it's a little bit too crowded at this corner and this corner, and DOT doesn't want to do anything with this property right here,
Which property?
the BP.
Oh, the BP, yeah.
Yeah. So, I doubt if we'd ever, well, I shouldn't say that. When they rebuild the overpass, which is probably 40 years from now, we may see a roundabout there.
All right.
And I know downtown is too tight, but there might be some out like at Elm Street and where the market connects. There's another development on the south side. You might see roundabouts there.
I was just whispering to Dan.
It was your idea. We
No.
got that, we got
No.
it.
That's why he gets the statue.
I'll make a motion to make a recommendation to city council to, city council ask the state about a arm.
That I would agree with. Second that.
All right. Just do a voice vote? No, just do roll call, we'll do roll call.
Mr. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Laird?
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt?
No,
Mr. Temperley?
Aye.
Motion passed 3-1.
Item 7, recommendations for future agendas. Paul, you have something, you jumped to the mic.
Well, let's see, next meeting, we'll definitely be bringing you some preliminary information, or actually, will we be to having solid recommendations next? The review of what we proposed during the budget process as far as what streets to chip seal, overlay, et cetera. Just an overview of what we're recommending. And you can discuss that some more. And then in April, we'll be bringing some information to you about the reconstruction of Mulberry Street. Oh, and then the bid should be ready for the April meeting too. All right, thanks.
Anybody else?
no, oops.
I got a question. The dredging project, should that go through Public Works?
I don't believe the Public Works Board has jurisdiction over those things.
I'm not gonna try and make an argument. Parks and Rec manages the dam.
Mm-hmm.
At one time, the water department owned the dam. I don't know how it's set up anymore.
Well, in terms of powers and duties, which I just checked, there wouldn't be any jurisdiction for that sort of a decision from this board, or recommendation even from this board.
And the only question I would have is stormwater, if that's enveloped in the project.
There was, part of the proposals was the possibility of raising the bridge. So if the council is seriously considering that,
They would recommend, they may recommend going to the Public Works Board. They can do what they want.
right,
But, yeah, I think you'll have plenty of time to think about it.
all right. You're just gonna get the grant first, right? I mean,
No, I don't even think we're headed down that road right now.
oh, okay.
At least my recommendation was, I think eventually we'll have to dredge the mill pond. Once we decided to put the dam back in, I think it was a foregone conclusion. I don't think the mill pond's at the point now where it is critical enough to force that decision. There's some other things that we could do in the interim. I would at least like to get through the 30 or 40 projects in our goals listing and see what rises to the top first, and then see where each one of them starts dropping into the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some interim things we can do in the mill pond to, keep an eye on it, see how healthy it stays. I've done a ton of research in the last week. The Mullet River Dam is an interesting one, so you can look at those types of things. So some of the discussions in relation to the economic development things, I think, are more going to be adjusted as the roads get adjusted. So if and when we rebuild the bridge over Mulberry, at that time, I think it will become more of a conversation, or not Mulberry, Ferry.
Very,
It will become a conversation separate from the mill pond. So I don't think that it is dead, but I don't think it's going to happen even as close as the mill pond dredging might.
okay.
I would think that certainly if we ever get to the point of doing any major road work that includes the bridge, that at some point it'll come to the Public Works Board.
Yep.
Okay,
Because that'll be part of the road construction anyways, and we bring those forward. We've been watching that bridge for years. I don't know if you remember, we had a contract probably in 2008 to have that repaired. And the contractor, the subcontractor who won the job, because it was part of the Ferry Street work from there north, came back and said, I don't want to work on this. So he just didn't do any work. We just kind of fell out, and, as part of this work, we had Strand analyze it, and I just don't think it probably could use some minimal work, but it's not in the condition where it needs to be replaced anytime in the near future.
Okay, I'm happy with that. So. Anybody else?
Anything in the near future happening with the yard waste?
Yeah, you come to the February 20th meeting. We have a whole presentation on yard waste and composting, which we spent, 3 hours on today?
Is that a city council meeting?
Yeah,
Well, it's a work session.
yeah, it's a work session.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it won't be televised, but everybody's certainly welcome to come.
Yeah, 6 o'clock here.
If we don't.
The composting will actually be first, because then the multi-use center will be second. So there'll be a lot of questions in relationship to what does the council want to see here, because we now do yard waste, and we picked up yard waste as part of when we banned burning, we went to full pickup for all the yard waste. And then we cut it back to a couple times a year, but we still get a ton of yard waste, a lot of drop-offs in our pickups. But do you want to do more? Do you want to do food? Do you want to set it up so that we can collect electronics or other types of industrial waste?
Construction, demolition.
Because that all then determines the size and the layout and all that. So we start working through those questions, and it's how long should it be open? And who can use it? And how are we going to structure the use?
So is yard waste under Public Works?
It is a part of Public Works.
Yeah.
So how come there's not how come it's a city council work session?
Because it's their budget session, and if they want to send it down, they can.
Right.
They're working on goals and what they want to see start moving to the top.
And if 3 people from the Public Works Board show up at that meeting, is that an issue as far as open, all that?
Well, we're going to have council member,
With regard to the Public Works Board.
she
yeah,
can just notice it that there may be members of other boards there.
Or it could be as specific as there may be a quorum of the Public Works Board present
They will
for
take no
information
action.
purposes.
Yeah.
Yep, that's probably appropriate.
Well, could it be on the Public Works Board agenda after the work session?
If directed so by the city council.
Well,
let's-
the Public Works Board can decide to do things too, right? It doesn't have to be directed by the city council?
Yes, but let's back up a second. If the city council is dealing with it from a goals perspective, all right? So if the Public Works Board starts taking it up and the city council decides they don't want to do it, then I think you're spinning your wheels. If the council decides they're going to do it, it's going to get incorporated into a capital plan, and the Public Works Board will deal with most of the issues coming forward. But that's kind of, you got to set what you want to do, and then you can move forward with it. And the Public Works Board is kind of a research and review board and a recommendation. They're not necessarily the goal-setting one.
Yeah.
So I'll let the council kind of work through it, see where they want to go. I mean, there's a long list. You can go on to the January 16th meeting, and there's a memo there, and inside that memo, there's a list about that long, and it doesn't include everything that they have to kind of work through and think about and start incorporating into their future capital plans. The goal is to look at all the things that we would like to do and structure a financial plan around that, and then start working them through all the processes that it needs to come to fruition. But you can't do $80 million worth of projects in 1 year. And, we have a lot of ideas and things like that, but the council really needs to work on it. That's their baby. That's what they get to do. That's why they get the big bucks.
The goal setting session was January 30th.
That was, yes.
Previous, that was for,
That has all the information on it.
oh,
Oh, yep, that would have
no,
been
those
it.
flow charts?
I don't know, it's got like oodles of attachments.
It should have a memo at the top of it, the city manager's memo.
City manager's report for goal setting.
Yes, that would be the one.
Yeah,
And
with many, many words.
we're having another one of those on the 27th if you're interested.
16 pages of words. That's not, sorry.
And it's dense. I could have made it a lot longer than that. Just ask Dan. He's the one that helped me cut it down. But you could come, that's separate. That's the 27th. That's another meeting that we'll have where we're working on actually the goals. This other information is kind of presentations of the issues involved. So we had two of those. We had the January 16th meeting and the February 20th meeting were both study sessions that were related to specific topics, the Mill Pond and Sandy Beach, and then this one will be composting and the multi-use. And then the 30th and the 27th were specifically related to trying to get to the point where we have an idea of where we're headed, what our true vision is for the next several years. We had a lot of fun at our first meeting on the 30th. I don't know that we got through what we wanted to get through. But hey, we had a lot of good interaction, and that's good.
Okay, is that it? All right, I'll adjourn the meeting then.
All right.